Good morning, everybody. Check my audio settings to make sure I'm on. You guys that can hear me, I do need to change them, I think. So, hope everybody's doing good. Goodsies, as my one daughter used to say when she was a kid. Hey, Joshua. Case in. Okay. All right. Thank you for reposting, guys. You are champs. I love that. Here we are in spaces. Soon. At the bottom. Again. Pulse chain. Again. It's so awesome. So awesome being at the bottom again. Why would somebody say that? I'm going to make some of you guys, how do you say it? There's some people that need a wrench. Let me get this pulled up. Hopefully spaces begin here in a second. So we don't have to have a monologue. You don't have to have a monologue from the Prairie Banana. Okay, we got that. All right, now back to business here. Reminder is set. You know what happened last time? Oh, here we go. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Banana. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you doing, Zen?
Good.
You are the pTGC Yoda. Were you much of a Star Wars person?
No, not at all.
I watched it when it came out. Yeah, we watched them all. I wasn't like a big sci-fi Star Wars. I'm just not that kind of mindset, but
There's a lot of diehard Star Wars people. I was reading this thing once that Lego was kind of going out of business, and then they created their Star Wars collectibles that where people could build, Star Wars like collectible items or whatever. It pretty much saved the whole entire business of Lego.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Well, man, it was been a rough couple days. Turned green a little bit. I was thinking on my way in, it's like, man, in crypto, you got two colors. You got red and you got green. I mean, it's weird. Our human behavior, our nature is like, if it's like 0.5% in the red, it's like, when you see that color, man, it's devastating. I'm overstating it, but then when it's green, it could be 0.5% green. You're just like having a party.
Yeah, there's definitely, I would say definitely more red days than green days. A lot of boring days throughout, a 4-month cycle.
Yeah.
A lot of down days, but then, those green days make up for it when they start to come. I just don't think we've gotten a good push of them in a while. Over 4 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Yes. And, for some of us, we haven't seen that. We haven't had like a pTGC or UFO pump in a while. I mean, it has been a dry spell. I think we had a dry spell last summer too, where it was just month after month of just chopping sideways, basically.
Yeah, it's not really so much pTGC. It's just the markets in general, right? Like when no money is flowing into risk on assets, there's no money to like kind of go downstream. So then that makes no money going to Pulse Chain, right? So when ETH isn't going up, that means no money really is flowing into crypto. And then that means no money is really flowing into Pulse Chain. And then on top of that, that kind of means no new money is flowing into pTGC. Yeah, it's we can look at the existing community that's here on Pulse Chain and educate them on the platform and see if they want to rotate. But what it means really is just no new money is flowing into crypto right now. And this is the same that was going on last summer. You're 100% right, but you can directly correlate when ETH price starts moving up, when money starts flowing into risk on assets. Well, a portion of that money makes its way to Pulse Chain. Even just a fraction of that money making its way to Pulse Chain sends Pulse Chain up a lot of X's, and then just a fraction of that making its way down to pTGC sends up pTGC and multiple of X's. But no, I agree. It's definitely been a longer period than I ever expected. It pretty much has pushed past the standard 4-year cycle. Even like the money printers turning on in the United States has been taking a little bit longer than I thought. So there's just a lot of things that I'm hoping is a big like coiling up effect, right? Like there is pressure building up. I can kind of feel it. But you never really know. You never know what the outcome of these kind of things are going to be. But in January, it was cooking, right? Like everything felt like it was lining up great. Trump being in the presidency, but sometimes when it becomes too obvious and everyone is on the same page, it's usually the reason why it doesn't happen. Too many people have the same plan, so I feel like the market in general sometimes has to have these periods to give people the uncertainty because everyone can't win this game.
Right. Yep. That is true.
And we're kind of working through it right now. I am actually very thankful for it if it comes, right? And I do still feel really confident that the pump is going to come and we're going to get the price appreciation of not just pTGC and Pulse Chain, but the more risk on assets like ETH and stuff like that. Yeah, I do think it's going to come, but I like to use the word if because I can't tell the future. I don't know what the future is. But if it comes, this discounted zone that we've had for so long, the ability to build our community at low prices, the ability to build up our LPs with Richard's tickers at low prices, the ability to, buy and burn our supply at low prices, I think is going to be like a blessing we look back to and say, yeah, that was cool. Like we actually appreciated that because onboarding people at lower prices is, I believe, hard, right? It's harder. It's really easy to onboard people when you have big green candles happening every single day. But it's so much more rewarding because you're getting these users in at discounted zones, which makes it a lot easier to get them up into profits and X's. And it's also good for people who don't have the patience or long-term vision because you're pretty much letting new users in at lower prices and old users out at lower prices, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of washing out back and forth. You're talking about the market cycles and the when or if question. And Richard's confidence gives me a lot of confidence. I think he probably has an idea of where the market is going, how the cycle is going to play out more than other people. I had this thought the other day, and this from, well, anybody listening can relate to this, I bet. The more you pick any trade that you do, you have to learn the basics, and then you have to learn how to do it, and you have to think as you go through the doing of it, whatever that trade is. But after a while, it becomes mechanical, right? And you can just do it without even thinking. But there's a step beyond that to where you're making intuitive decisions. Like you're not really certain, but you just got a feeling that you need to do X over here instead of Y over here. And you go and do X and you find out later what the purpose of doing X before Y was. And I call that becoming an artist. Like you do anything for an extended period of time, you become an artist. And you'll notice that everybody either has experience in this, has experienced it, or will experience it in their lifetime. If you put your nose to the grindstone and become an expert and spend time at a thing. I related that to Richard Hart. He's been in crypto probably more than twice as long as many of us. Not only is he highly intelligent, I believe he has become an artist at crypto, and he can do things intuitively, and that many of us are like scratching our head, like, why, Richard? Just trust that he knows what he might not even know technically what he's doing, but his subconscious, the artist in him, is just directing his steps. And it might look confusing from our perspective, but it's going to shake out for our benefit because I believe that he's an artist when it comes to crypto.
Yeah, I think the highly intelligent part is an overlooked piece right now that I don't see a lot of people talking about. And when you actually pay attention to him talking back in the day and like watch some of his old videos, the guy is ridiculously smart. like
I know it.
Like, it's an understatement just to say he's highly intelligent. Like the guy is ridiculously smart. The things that he was talking about 5 years ago was, 5 years ahead of his time, and I still think that he would pretty much I still think he still understands this stuff better than the 99% 5 years ago than people now, right? With 5 more years of studying how these DeFi protocols and how liquidity pools and all these things work, I think he's even like how Bitcoin works. He knows more than the Bitcoin guys. It's insane how intelligent the guy is.
Yeah, we've forgotten that.
It's scary, right? Because you're just like, this guy doesn't even understand crypto to this level. Like, I personally believe he understands marketing to that level. I also think he understands psychological warfare and like human emotional reactions to that level as well. Like, you can kind of see that in his arguments and interviews. He understands a lot of things that matter in crypto more than just the markets, because crypto is a weird place because it's where human emotions meet markets, right? With stocks and stuff like that, people react emotionally to it, but you have to realize it's a lot more long-term play, and it doesn't react as much, and there isn't like individuals that have control of their accounts as much as people tend to believe. A lot of the value is like ran by banks and stuff like that, by like mutual accounts or index accounts and stuff like that. So they don't have as much emotion to them because it's people's like jobs. So I do find crypto very, very interesting at that point. And I think Richard understands this better than anyone realizes. And I personally believe in the next few months, just because he's hinted towards it, we will see what plan he has in store. And I think that plan is going to tap into more things than people realize, because of like going back to how smart the guy is. And it sometimes feels like, it's like crazy smart to where it's like almost unfair for the general person, because I think there's going to be emotions involved with it. I think there's going to be markets involved with it. I think there's going to be psychological things involved with it. And who knows what the outcome is, right? But I do think he cares about his brands, and he cares about the brands that he creates doing well. But it's not on the time of us, right? It's on the time of when it's right in the market, right? There's a right time to market a product, and it's when the money is flowing into the markets. There's no reason to waste the money really marketing the product when no new money is flowing in. And I do believe he understands this stuff better than anyone else. He's the guy who sent the product up 10,000x. So, I think we do need to put a little bit of trust in that. And I do think the most overlooked thing is how intelligent the guy is.
Agreed. And yeah, we've forgotten that. We've forgotten a lot of stuff since he stopped streaming. Oh, and just in the past 4 years, we've forgotten how witty and intelligent Richard Hart is, and we've forgotten how volatile to the upside a cycle can be. So we're about to learn. I think we're about to have a refresher course in those two topics.
Yeah, I'm excited for a refresher course on those two topics. I've been witnessing the machine of pTGC do its thing. I'm super excited about how well it's actually performing, even in this very dull environment. Like, you can literally look at the pulse chain bridge on a daily basis and see no new money flowing into this chain. And I don't mean that in like a completely negative way to pulse chain. It's just reality, right? You have to be realistic when you're looking at all these things. You have to be realistic when you're looking at pulse chain at all-time low in volumes. You have to be realistic when you can realize, okay, no new money is flowing into this chain right now, but we're still performing very well. Our community is more diamond-handed, I think, than people even realize. You know what I mean? Like, we went from a 500K market cap to 350 million market cap, and yeah, there was a sell-off, right? But there was a sell-off on Pulse Chain pretty much just as big. Pulse Chain only went up 3x this last time. And if you actually look at just in the last couple of days, someone's selling millions of dollars of PulseX. PulseX isn't even up, right? So I think it is overlooked how diamond-handed the pTGC community is. They believe in the product. They believe in holding long-term. They believe in supporting the system. And they've actually been tested, right? Like, I can't say another token this cycle besides maybe the PDI community. I'd say that's probably the best example. Is, have they been tested to the upside and have they been tested to the downside? If you're going to claim a community has diamond hands, you can't claim that unless you've actually tested them in the environment of going up an extreme amount or going down an extreme amount. And I think that's one thing that really opens my eyes about pTGC long term is, hey, we've tested our community hundreds of exits. And for the most part, they held very well. There's still products on chain that can't even hold a 40% gain without a massive capitulation. And that's one thing that makes me feel very confident in pTGC long term, because I do believe there is people who, when we go up to 4, 5, 10, 20, 100x, people are going to take profits. People are going to start changing their life in real life, especially when you're on a blockchain that there isn't a lot of assets where people have gotten the chance to do that. You know, if Pulse starts doing that for people, I actually feel that people will less take profits out of pTGC because they'll be able to take profits out of other things instead. But I do believe a very large portion of the people still holding their bags really plan on seeing this thing out long term. Like, it's not about when you found out about something, it's about how long you held it, if it's a good product, right? And I think pTGC is proving to be that product that people have been looking for a long-term system, a system that works for them, a system that they can feel comfortable with holding long-term, even after the cycle going into next bear market. Like, if we can make some decent gains this cycle and start changing our lives, and when I say changing our lives, like, I think people love to see their portfolio and crypto change their lives, but it's also important to say changing our lives, like, when you say our lives, like, you have to look at in real life too, right? You want to start bettering your in real life as well. It doesn't need to be with like tons of flashy stuff, but just maybe opening up some free time to spend more time with your wife and kids and stuff like that. So I feel like once we can change our lives in real life more with, these investments and long-term plays that we're taking here on Pulse Chain with some risk, it is cool to hold an asset that you don't have to just sit there and stare at the chart all day with, and it's just kind of doing its thing for you. The value in the system's working for you, and like it might be time to start spending some time with the family, and maybe instead of worrying about onboarding people on crypto Twitter, maybe everyone's path is more onboarding people to a really good product in real life. Yeah.
Crispy Man said in the chat, he said, I've seen 5,555 UFOs. Thanks for that, Crispy. Yeah. When it's slow, it's like time to get, it's either like you were saying, it's like time to go touch grass, go do something fun. And I agree with that totally, 100%. But it's also a time, an opportunity to back up, regroup, build, in anticipation of the next leg up. But the one thing we do not want to do is like quit, because we want to meet opportunity head on. That's how I feel. I know you feel the same way. I don't want to wake up one day and everything's taken off and I didn't do my level best to feel to where I can feel like I had a part in that process. I want to feel like when it takes off, I want to feel like I had something to do with that. I know maybe just a little bit, but I have something to do with that. But if I don't do my level best, and I'll be like, oh, that's great. I'm glad everything's green, but I don't got any skin in the game. I want to have skin in the game, man.
Yeah, and at these low times right now, it's the best time to onboard, right? It's the best time to even get exits over the blockchain because it takes the least amount of value. That's what's really cool about the lower you go, is with your asset, or if it's because of bonded tickers, in the last few days, it's been solely from just tickers we're bonded to. As you can see, our PLS ratio has been staying the same. So it's just, PLS dragging us down. But the lower PLS drags us down, it takes less dollar value coming into pTGC to do X's over the blockchain, which is our X multiplier. So there is a very unique opportunity. The lower it goes, we can actually cover a crazy amount of ground. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Banana, is, you have to sometimes ask yourself, when it's go time, did I do everything I feel like I could have done to make this product the best product it could be? We're not really changing the product, but as more value comes into the product, it actually becomes a stronger machine because that's more value working within the machine, which equals more value generation, APY, buy and burns, etc. And the low levels are the best place to do it. Right now, this is a good point, right? Yesterday, I posted this thing that Pulsefolio has this new thing where you can vote on your ticker, and if you are the part of the top tickers, you're on their homepage for the top cryptos or Pulse chain tickers, right? Kind of cool, right? It's up to the community to get yourself on the homepage. When one day the pTGC community became the top token.
Oh, really?
Yes. We got, in a 24-hour period, 120 votes. So 120 people participated in voting, which is free, right? Anyone can vote. So I appreciate that, because now we're showing as the top, and you can actually vote every 24 hours. So if our community can stay on that, if we can keep on this rate for 10 days straight, well, we'll have 1,000 votes. We'll have a lot of space between us and other tokens, which is great because we want to stay at this top spot for when the market does pick up. If we can remain in these top spots, it's going to help get eyeballs on us. But more importantly, about getting 100 people, right? 100 people is not bad. If 100 people can onboard, let's say, one person with $5,000, I know that's a lot, right? But I'm just using it as an example, or maybe $5,000 total through a few people. Well, that's $500,000 into pTGC at the all-time lows. If we bring $500,000 into pTGC right now, that's roughly 2x to the pTGC price against bullshit.
Right on.
There's tons of things that we can do as a community, especially at these low levels in real life, and just what we're doing right now, educating about pTGC, in the meantime, right? There's a lot of things we could do in the meantime with this somewhat decent sized community that we have built right now. And it's up to us, right? No one else is going to do it for us. If you think someone is going to onboard for you, yeah, there is Banana, me, other people who are going to sit here and try to keep educating, try to keep onboarding. But as a community, as 100, 200,000 people, the amount of ground we can cover in a short amount of time is quite insane. It's just everyone kind of needs to step up and put in that work. And you might go up to bat, you might swing and get nothing, right? That's something you might hit up a buddy and they say, no, I don't have any value to, put in a highly risky asset right now. It's completely understandable, but at least you went out and tried.
Yeah. And you get little blessings along the way. I want to talk about that Pulsefolio thing in a second, but I was watching, I don't know if you saw it, a Wild SJ's video on X yesterday, but she's out in town putting pulse chain stickers on light poles and stuff. And she sees, so she has two interesting things happen to her while she's doing that. She sees a hex license plate. It says hex T45 or something like that. And that was very interesting and exciting for her. And then at the end of her video, she looks down and there's a rose on the ground. She's like, that's my rose. That was for me because I'm out here, trying to spread the word about pulse chain. You get little things along the way. I didn't know that you can vote every single day on Pulsefolio. That's pretty cool. I wonder if that's a bug in their system. I wonder if they planned it that way or if it was an accident.
I don't think it's a bug. I think it's pretty similar that they want to, it's like the idea of give someone a task on your site every single day that benefits them. Well, then they're going to show up to your site every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to show up every single day. Everybody needs to go to Pulsefolio every day. First thing in the morning, put it on a sticky note, stick it on your monitor or wherever you can see it and go to Pulsefolio. This is so easy, guys. I'll literally pull it up. So I'm going to show it on for the viewers on YouTube. This is how you do it, guys. Pulse, P-L-S folio, F-O-L-I-O, pulsefolio.com. And then you search PTDC and UFO, and it pulls them straight up. And then you select vote. And right now, UFO has has 97 votes. Let's get that up to over 100 before the end of Spaces today. We only need 3 votes, guys. Everybody listening on Spaces and on YouTube, if you have the ability to, if you can get to Pulsefolio, go to it and vote. Even if you voted again, if you voted yesterday, do it again today. And then make a sticky note and do it every single day. Listen, man, if just 10 people vote every single day for a month, how many? That's 3. We'd take that because UFO has, PTDC has about 140 votes right now. We'd add 300 votes. We'd beat almost 500 within 30 days, guys, if just 10 people did it every single day. So go do it.
Yeah, one thing I like about it, too, is you don't got to sign in. You don't got to connect. You don't got to create an account. You just can go on the site and click it. I appreciate that because I don't like really logging into stuff like that. So I like that you can just vote.
Stan says UFO is at 99 right now. So I'm going to go back to UFO and check it out.
And
96.
If anyone else has any sites that have, because I know recently there has been a lot of portfolio tracking sites and new dashboards similar to GoPulse that have been made more recently just due to us needing new ones of these. If any other sites has something similar to this that we can vote on to help our token get ranked on their homepage and stuff like that, let me know. I know there's a new one called Frankenball or something like that, which is super cool. I don't know if this one has a voting portion, but if it does, let me know so we can, get our community together to also get highly ranked on there. If we can get traction here at the bottom, these are the best times to be positive. These are the best times to be loud. This is the best time to work for your bags because this is when no one else is. This is when you can garner a lot of
dude.
ground against the other things on chain. And it's not really completely peer versus peer, but I do want pTGC to not only be one of the best tokens on Pulse chain, I want it to be one of the best tokens in crypto. And it does take working hard in every scenario, right? Green candles, red candles, slow days, high volume days.
Yes.
It's all time, right? Time is the most valuable thing. And if you were only acting on green days, your time would be pretty much cut in a fifth.
And if
so
go ahead.
So I think it's also important, on the slower days, that's a good portion of crypto to set goals and let's cover some ground. Let's get pTGC as strong as we can at these low periods. So when stuff starts to go, it's got the backbone that we need, the foundation that we need, not only to go to high levels, but also to sustain those high levels, to really show our place on this chain as one of the blue chips.
Yeah. I mean, if we can respond and do positive things during green candle days, why can't we do them on red candle days? There's a strategy for certain things. Like, it's kind of like, what's the point of beating on the door of streamers so we can go stream with them during a sea of red? Nobody wants to stream. It's kind of like you're wasting your time. So just go do something else. Come back to that when it's green. But, you really have to ask yourself, what can I do when it's red? There's got to be something we can do. This thing is simple. This Pulse Folio thing. By the way, we're at 100, probably over 100 by now for UFO, and probably at 150 for pTGC. I posted this yesterday on my X, and I think I just reposted your post, but I'm going to post it again today. So if you guys, and what I did with mine is I put a direct link, but it's really so simple to go in there and pull up the tokens and vote. Like Zen said, you don't have to log in, you don't have to connect your wallet, none of that. It's so simple. I want to see, it's June 21st. I wonder if we can get at least pTGC up to 1,000 votes by the end of June.
Yeah, I think goals like that are super good, right? I think we need to set goals for ourselves. Right now, I see so many people asking Richard to do something for them. And one thing I love about the pTGC and UFO ecosystem, what we strive on, what we excel in, is putting the ball in our court. We are in charge of our own future. We are in charge of our own exits. We are in charge of our own wallets, right? If we want to win this cycle, we have plenty of ground to cover on our own. Obviously, we want Richard to start coming out more. We want Richard to help increase the overall position of the blockchain. But it's to cover as much ground in the meantime on our own, just in case something like that doesn't happen. That's what's so wonderful about Pulse chain or Pulse pTGC and UFO on Pulse chain is we can win games without the MVP of the team. If he's currently out because of legal reasons, that's okay. There is so much ground that we can cover. There's so many baskets that we can make just ourselves. And it's important to spend the time, especially at this crucial point in the market. To me, it's work time. This is the time where you really kind of work for your bags. And tons of things that you can do that's completely free. Take absolutely not even having a following on Twitter, not even anything. This is a very basic one that, you are probably looking at price charts anyways. Maybe start looking at it on PLS Folio. And when you look at it, just open it up and click.
Yeah, it's so simple. What's that? There was another site. We should probably have a list of these sites where we can vote. Here's a very simple one, but it's Deck Screener. And Deck Screener. Let's see. I need to vote. I wonder if you can vote multiple times on Deck Screener. I think. Let's see. We're about to find out.
So. which I'm glad about having a lot of votes on Dex Screener too. The thing I really like about the Pulsefolio, just to be honest,
Okay.
is your votes go towards something. And I don't know what Dex tools or Dex Screener goes toward, but I like that whoever has the most votes gets put on the homepage as the top Pulse chain tokens.
Oh, really? Hot dog. Yep, you can vote multiple times on Dex Screener. So, man, I just got to make it a daily task to go. It's so simple. It almost seems like a waste of time. Like, man, I'm only getting one vote per day, but it's that compound effect. You know, it's that day after day after day. And the next thing you know, you're 30 days in and it's 30 votes. It's not just one, it's 30. You've done a 30x, but it takes time. It just took some time. That's all. Jim Horton says, just keep buying pTGC. Every dollar in my opinion, is worth $100. That is literally possible, he says. I agree, man. Like pTGC right now, you can pick up a million of it for $250. And if it does go to $1, that'd be, let's see, if it went to $1, oh yeah, man, that'd be some cheese. That'd be some cheese, but it'd have to get to $1. But yeah, that's a good point, Jim Horton. What's that other site, Zen, that you can upvote stuff? It was kind of I want to say it was like a Spanish kind of name. What was it?
Are you talking about Morales?
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of stopped voting on there. I need to get back into it. Again, I like the PLS folio because your votes are actually going towards like ranking place to where you get more visibility. I feel like I lost a little bit of motivation with those other ones because you're like, well, what is this going towards?
Right. Well, Morales is more it's not chain specific, if I remember correct. It's not a pulse chain site, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to look into that again. But Pulsefolio and Dex Screener for sure. We're just going to have to just beat the drum on that a little bit. Well, what else is going on? What happened? Was there any news last week? Like, why is Bitcoin at 103,000? Is it just kind of the normal market cycle thing? I think, okay, here, now that I'm talking about it, I think perhaps it's because of the FOMC meeting. Like, they didn't drop rates like we were anticipating. I think we were anticipating that. That was the sentiment that I got. But, you know, maybe
we might be going into a war. I'd say that's
yeah. Yep. Okay. I don't watch the news. I don't know what's going on, but I catch rumblings of. Yeah, I think just within the last week, it has become clear. I think we are involved already in that war. Okay. Well, what do? Keep dollar cost averaging. Everybody that holds the Gray's currencies are literally dollar cost averaging every single day.
Yeah, usually wars turn into money printing sometimes, which not saying war is good at all, but
yeah,
for risk on assets, sometimes the money printing helps. Definitely doesn't help in the short term where the news of the war comes out, but once the fear and just the acceptance of it goes on, sometimes the market picks back up again. But again, no war is better than any of that, so I would prefer the no war personally. But
yeah, well, maybe we can get the war over quickly and then get back on with our bull run. Are there any Richard Hart tweets that we should read? He made a pretty long.
There was a big one yesterday.
I think that was the one. I think that was the Put on your big boy pants and get to work tweet. Was that the one? Was that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, go to it. I'm happy to read it. I think Richard in the last year has so many tweets that have, in my opinion, confirmed the design of pTGC and UFO being very, very successful. Like,
yes.
I don't even think he like follows what I say at all. Like I'm literally a nobody. But I found it just so interesting. I've heard him talk about supply and demand in the past, but like never hitting so hard on it. And since I've been hitting so hard on, pTGC and UFO being so structured behind tapping into supply and demand and amplifying the features of it, I've been seeing him tweet about supply and demand so much more. And for me, I don't think he's getting this stuff from me, but it just shows that we're so in tune with what needs to happen to make a successful product, right? Or right there with pretty much the thinkings of someone I consider very, very smart, like we were talking about, highly intelligent. He understands what needs to happen in the product for it to have success, and it just aligns so much with what's been designed in pTGC and UFO. This isn't just me saying, it's like his tweets are literally talking about the main features that we're talking about his products in these tweets, but they align so well with pTGC and UFO. And then there was that other one when I was talking about the X multiplier for months, an idea that no one was talking about, not even on any blockchain. Like I've never even heard anyone talk about this. And then he comes out with that reflexivity tweet where he never really talked about reflexivity before that tweet. It was months after I was hammering home about the X multiplier. And it's just like, I'm so glad to hear that is using the same strategy that we're using to do X's.
Mm-hmm. Richard Hart is a lurker. I'm pretty convinced. I'm very convinced he lurks. You don't know it's him in Telegram. He might even have a different X account. I don't know. But I think
I'm sure he has different X accounts, but
he's around.
Yeah, I don't think he's what I'm saying. But I do love to see that the product of pTGC taps into so many of the same ideas that he is using to make successful products, right?
Yeah. So I've got this tweet pulled up. It's a doozy. Let's see. It's not super awful long. He says, Pulse chain is awesome. It works great. Pulse X works great. Hex works great. Wonderful technology. So how specifically does that affect the price? Well, Pulse and Pulse X both have lower supplies now than when they launched because of burning. Supply and demand is king. Do you guys catch that? He says supply and demand is king. Yeah, we've got that solved in the Grace currencies. Reduction of supply is good for price. But what is the primary mechanism by which price moves? Buyers and sellers. Price up, that's because there's more buying than selling. Price down, that's because there's more selling than buying. It's not useful.
Banana, if you can, stop after each paragraph.
Okay.
Keep going, but
that was the first.
I'd like to talk about each paragraph one by one, if you don't mind.
Okay, we're done with the first paragraph.
Okay. So first of all, the first sentence is Pulse X works great. Pulse works great. Hex works great. I think this is really important to pay attention to, right? Is even though the price isn't showing it right now, what we have is a bunch of flawlessly operating products. And that's very, very important, right? They're products that are very sustainable, have a great foundation that we can actually work off of. And then I also want to tie this back to pTGC and UFO. Yeah, price is a little bit down right now, but they have proven, and they're proven every single day, to work great. So every day, I get to wake up, you get to wake up, everyone in this space gets to wake up, and we get to say, you know what? The market isn't necessarily doing what we want right this second, but guess what? The pTGC and UFO products work great. And that's a lot more than most people get to say. 99% of products out there in crypto either don't work at all. You literally have no utility at all, have no product market fit at all. They were launched literally to be a scam. So I guess they worked good for the one person who put them out to take money from you. That's one of the biggest reasons tokens are launched. But
yeah,
or even if our saying is coming out in the future, never even comes out, or once they do come out, they don't even work as they promised the product would work. pTGC and UFO are finished products that have proven to work great for over a year now. That's a lot to stand on. That's a lot of foundation to work with, and that's what PulseChain, PulseX, and X have as well. It's their finished products that work great, and that's very important, right? This is more than what most people have.
Yep. Finished products, immutable code, cannot be changed.
Yeah. And then the next part, supply and demand is king. This is a big one for me, right? Supply and demand was one of the main things I was studying in the design of pTGC and UFO. We do not need to reinvent the wheel of supply and demand on blockchain. We know what has appreciated price with any product and service for thousands of years. You can have a business that offers a service. You can have a business that offers a product. You can just have a valuable good that you're looking to sell. All operate off of economics. They all operate off of supply and demand. In the real world, you have to create supplies that can handle demand. Why? But you have demand, price forces upwards. This is the goal basically with crypto, is you want the supply to be reducing and you want the demand to be increasing. Most cryptos actually don't even have a reducing supply. It's either a stagnant supply, like most meme coins, or an inflationary supply, like most DeFi protocols. A lot of them don't even have these inflationary mechanisms. The demand side, relative on the markets and on what human emotions and your marketing, etc. It's super, super sweet within the pTGC system. We're not only attached to the market, so we have that demand wave that flows in and out, obviously, just like any other product. When money flows in, demand is high. When money flows out, demand is low. This is basics of, the inhale and exhale of markets. But we also have the ability to market it ourselves. We have an awesome, fun narrative and meme that we can use. We have tech that we can educate on. We have a unique product market fit that's never been done before. So we can increase demand by just hard work and education and marketing. But then we also have mechanically driven demand as well from the utility of the pTGC system. So we get more than other products as far as the demand side. And I do think it's starting to add up. You can see the tokens buying and burning every single day off of this. That's value injection in. You can see the ARP bots trading these tokens all day long. Some days more than others, but it does start to add up over time, and it's never going anywhere. It'll last the length of. So I do believe what Richard is saying is true. I think he's tapping into supply and demand principles 101, and we've been tapping into this as well. We'll see where it takes us, right? This is a highly speculative asset, and I don't know of a product that has ever been designed in this way. But in any case where there is demand and a lack of supply, the price of that product increases drastically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. We're looking forward to that. He goes on and says, it's not useful to pretend that the quality of the tech or its founder somehow magically changes prices. It is obviously buyers and sellers that are in charge of the price. You'd have to be really stupid or pitiful or misguided or some combination of those three to try and blame price on something other than buyers and sellers.
Yeah. So one thing that's really nice about the pTGC and UFO system is we started and are pretty much very, very small in comparison to the crypto market in general, right? We're still very, very, very small. Both apps pretty much still micro caps at this point. They're under 100 million. UFOs at a 15 million and pTGC's at like 75 million or something right now. Micro caps. Pretty much no one in this world even knows they exist, which, looking at buyers and sellers, that means there's thousands more buyers than sellers that currently we can tap into. Yeah, people can sell. Price goes down when people sell, but we have limitless amounts of buyers that I believe are actually looking for a product like this. They just don't know that it exists. And it's kind of on us to market it and educate them on it. When price goes down, yeah, it usually means either people are selling the blockchain token or our token, right? It doesn't have to be just us. We can get dragged down, just like in the last couple of days, from people selling Pulse X. So we're directly correlated to sellers on the chain and the assets we're connected to. It doesn't need to be sellers in our system. But at one point, there will be no more sellers. Do we know where that is? No, we don't know where that is. But when the buyers come in, and then buyers can come in even with sell pressure on the chain, right? We can get buyers into pTGC that can have up handles when even the blockchain has red handles. The cool thing about pTGC is we know how diamond hand this community is. We've seen it go up hundreds of X's, and we've actually seen our community, for the most part, hold. Yes, people took profits. This is going to happen anytime you go up X's. But for the most part, our community is extremely diamond-handed, and this is very important for long-term growth because all that matters is more buyers than sellers. And if we can get more buyers than sellers, I do believe mechanically we have a system that can thrive in that environment. And I believe Richard's systems can as well too. I think right now it's mainly the fact that there is some leaky spots in his bucket. So even though we're filling up the bucket with the cup, there is water leaking out the bottom. This is the sellers, and then water going in at the top. But when that flow of value comes in, if it's not a cup every day, it's a hose that's just constantly turned on, very, very easily that price can start to go up.
Yeah.
And the inflow of money is greater than the outflow out. It's on us to make that happen, right? If we believe in the product, if we have conviction in the product, I think it's very, very easy. I think right now people have lost their conviction. They're scared. It's been a rough, this is obvious. It's hard to onboard when it's been like this. Very quickly, this can change. And
yeah,
very quickly, price can start. So keep your head up. It's not anyone's fault. It's just how the market reacts when money starts leaving the market. And this isn't just Pulse Chain. Well, money comes out of products that are up, products where there's value. And usually that equals some downtrend on that chart. But it starts flowing back in, the money flows back into those good products that were up as well. So,
yay. He says, I guess when people are butthurt, they lash out, even at their own team, even if it makes no sense. They can't control the price, so they try to do something they can control, cry publicly. Nothing is more manly than crying in public like a bitch. Nothing makes you more powerful than blaming everything on everyone else but yourself. Pro tip: when you take responsibility for your actions, you give yourself the gift of being able to make changes that can improve your life.
So I think with pTGC and UFO, it's a good example of being in control a certain aspect of the market. pTGC and UFO are a very small cup compared to Pulse Chain, Pulse X, Inc. Single-handedly, none of us can really change what's happening there, right? It's so massive. Like, I think even Richard can change it, right? Richard can change it, but not one tweet or anything like that. It takes a very large amount of effort and money to probably change the market in general. One thing I find very, very cool about pTGC and UFO is us as a community, not me solely, like I change this solely, but us as a community, we can actually change the market. We can technically go up against the downtrend market, and pTGC can show this right now. Pulse Chain has made lower lows since the existence of pTGC, and pTGC has made higher highs. So I do think what he's talking about is the market in general, is people want to whine and complain because they can't control these certain things. But again, I do think there is things that we can control. pTGC and UFO, we can't control others, but we can help in the direction that we want this system to go. I think that's what we're doing right now, is we do have somewhat control of our future, and we can do that with certain products like pTGC and UFO, which are proxies of the Richard tickers of the market, right? We just have specific knit and a very tight-knit community and a very strong diamond-handed community to where we can actually win games, win months, create green months, even with the rest of the market being down. And it's very, very powerful to have of your future, right? And that's how I feel with us on Pulse, with pTGC and UFO, is our small community does have control of our future, and the market in general amplify it or suppress it, but we do have things that we can do to create green months when the rest of the market is red, right? We can have green month, with the market being red month. Yes, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of onboarding. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of diamond-handed community members, but it is possible. That's the power of being a small cup in a big market.
What you were saying was right on point with a question that Sal has on YouTube, and I have a slide pulled up too that answers the question, but I welcome your comments. He asks, assuming that the price of Pulse Chain does not increase, when will the superiority of the Gray's ecosystem and its mechanics be able to overcome the negative influence of Pulse Chain caused by Hart's law? And I have my slide pulled up that demonstrates that between August of last year, April of this year, Pulse Chain volumes increased 3x, whereas pTGC's volume 8x'd. Pulse Chain's price dropped by 38%. pTGC's price increased by 533%. So I guess, Sal, what I would say is, that classic advice of, if you're feeling down in the mouth about where things are, zoom out, go to your deck screen or pull at pTGC and zoom out on price and in ratio for Pulse Chain. And I think you'll see, I think it will encourage you and answer your question too, because we have been moving up against Pulse. It's just hard. It's hard to see it from right now.
100%. I think maybe short term, you don't see it happening as much, right? If you look at just a few months, but if you zoom out long term, you can actually see the pTGC system hitting higher highs with the blockchain we're built on hitting lower lows. And this is one thing I'm thinking about, is you kind of have to create a solution to any problem, right? We don't know what the future holds with Pulse Chain. There is risk involved on being on such a speculative chain. I believe it will be very, very successful, but I also like to create plans accordingly to if it's not, right? I don't think it's wise to not have plans. And pTGC is a very, very good plan in my opinion, because we can do X's very easily without the blockchain doing anything. So there can be 0 X's on the blockchain. We can be up 10X, right? And when does the mechanics kick in to do this? Usually it happens when value starts flowing into the market, right now value isn't flowing into the market, but when you see ETH going up, that usually means value is flowing back in, and that's usually also equals a little bit of price appreciation on Pulse, right? Because everything happens in waves. But when that value starts flowing into the markets, you can see all the metrics of pTGC ramp up. You can see the price ramp up, you see the liquidity ramp up, you see the volume ramp up, you see the buying bird ramp up, you see the APY ramp up. You see all this ramp up when value starts flowing in, and it starts with when money starts flowing into risk on assets. This is where pTGC really starts to gain in the past, right? This is no guarantee of the future. This is where pTGC really starts to gain ground over the blockchain. So even when everything pulled back, Pulse chain pulled back to lower lows, where pTGC has consistently landed, and this has happened like 3 to 4 times now, is at higher highs, because the floor is constantly getting risen, because we are a small cup and we're constantly onboarding new users, and a lot of those users plan on holding long term. We're buying and burning a ton of the supply. We're adding LP. We're constantly rising the floor of this, decently small cup in comparison to the general market. So I just think where we normally see what he's asking for happen is we need a micro market cycle to play out. And when I say a cycle, your cycle, in my opinion, but within a 4-year cycle, there is plenty of micro cycles. So inhales and exhales of the market. On Pulse chain, we've had 3 of these so far. It's where value flows into the chain and you can see the price move up. Well, everything on the chain moves up. But the trick is, start moving up, you want to be in the assets that move up the most and fall the least. Because everything's going to move up and everything's going to come back down for the most part. But some things will move up quite a bit. Some things will move up quite a little, right? Some of them actually even go down depending if they have no sustainability in there. Everyone just wants out. So when things are low, I personally think that's the best time to rotate out of the things you think will move up as heavy and into the things that you do think will move up heavier. A lot of people think it's after they move up, and this isn't the case. It's actually before they move up is the best time, because when everything's down, everything's down. Everything's being suppressed. But when money starts flowing into the market, you want to be in before the money comes into the products you actually think will outperform everything else. Because once the value flows in, if those things outperform and you're still sitting in the asset that not many people want or that won't perform as much, the assets that you do want to get in are that much further away, and you can either rotate at the top or you have to be patient and wait for the same opportunities again that we're in right now. And the opportunity ratio wise might never hit these levels again. We don't know. I can't speak of the future, but if you study the past ratio wise, pTGC has never hit a lower low every time the blockchain has done this microcycle. It's constantly ratcheted itself up against Pulse chain.
Yeah. The Bendu asks a question. He says, better question, is there a possibility of the DAO supporting price? And we'll get back to the tweet in a second, but kind of want to get through this question. Is there a possibility of the DAO supporting price more aggressively than the current buy mechanisms? And I was just looking at the chart, pTGC versus against Pulse. And right now it's almost 10 to 1, but we've been chopping sideways for about the past 10 weeks. So we're in a range. Obviously, if we're going to flip, DAO funds, treasury funds into PTD to buy pTGC and burn it, it'd be nice if the ratio were lower. But we have been chopping in a range for about 7 weeks. But if you wouldn't mind commenting on his question.
Yeah, so recently, not so much in the last month, but the month prior, and I think the month of May, and then the month even before that, the DAO was spending a lot of its funds on buy and burns of the pTGC asset.
Yeah.
in my opinion, and this is kind of what we've had in the past, is when markets are moving down, it doesn't make as much sense to inject the funds into the buying burn, because you don't know where that floor is going to be. We don't know where the floor of the market's going to land. And it does kind of make more sense to do it when you found the floor and it's time to start working its way up, because the Dow kind of helps the machine start the, I love the analogy of the firewood, right? If it's pouring outside, this is like the downtrend on the market, and you only have so much timber and you only have so much flint or whatever to spark a fire, it doesn't make sense for you to exhaust all your energy and all your resources when it's pouring outside. When it makes the most sense is wait for the rain to stop, kind of get under a rock or whatever, wait for the rain to stop, everything to dry out again, and then get out there and then use your resources and your energy to put the spark to that kindling. Because then if you can use the resources that you have, like the Dow or just the community working hard, right? We could be at a low point right now, and let's say we aim to step up and onboard. It's the best time for people to DCA in. It's the best time for the Dow to actually put a little bit of spark on that kindling. Because if you can get that spark going, well, then that just starts to burn on its own. And you're more likely to get a good fire when everything is dry, not when it's raining on top. I forget the exact question, but we have used resources like the Dow to help the pTGC chart in the past. I personally think that's one of the reasons why we have consistently created higher floor after higher floor, is because of the Dow doing buy and burns or buy and LPS and stuff like that.
I would add that the Dow has limited funds. It does not have unlimited funds. So if funds were not,
there's limited funds, but constantly regenerating too.
Yes.
So with a lot of other reserves, the reserve isn't constantly compounding. That reserve is there from some funding, and usually that funding isn't reoccurring. And one thing I find very unique about pTGC's Dow, which is kind of a reserve of funds that we get to tap into as a community, is yes, there is a certain amount we can access at this time, but it's actually constantly refilling itself back up off of the market volume and volatility too. So yes, there are limited at the time, but then with time and patience, we do have more funds to tap into for technically getting done.
So you got to strike a balance between burning, spending too many of the funds, if not as much, if they're not being replenished, He has a follow-up question. He says, not being negative, how are KOLs, key opinion leaders, YouTubers, etc., supposed to market pulse chain better than the founder who is a master marketer? Do you think it's a delay tactic till SEC Interpol FUD is over? And I would say, how are we supposed to influence for pulse chain better than the founder? I wouldn't say we can do it better than the founder, although we can. However, we could just follow what he does. If we just follow in his footsteps, we're going to be influencing like he does. But his last...
Yeah, I don't know if I fully understand his question. I personally think Richard is the best person to market his blockchain.
Yeah.
Is he saying he thinks the community is better, or is he thinks Richard's the best? Because I personally think Richard is the best person to market his own product. It's the same thing as one of the reasons why I, in the community of pTGC, am out here as someone trying to educate on pTGC, because I think I'm very, very good at it compared to others, just because I spent years designing it and studying it, so I can kind of shoot off the features and why they're here very, very easily, and they know why they're here compared to a lot of other people are either still learning the scene or don't know a lot of the reasons why certain things exist. And for the community, like, I'll be honest, like when I onboard people into Pulse Chain, as of right now, I for the most part just onboard them straight into pTGC and UFO.
Yes.
Because by holding pTGC and UFO, they are holding all of Richard's tickers, proxy of his tickers. It's an index of the whole entire chain. They have deflationary tokenomics. They have a diamond-handed community. They have APY written in. I do think the product hits a lot of the things people are looking for, and it's also got a chart that is moving up and to the right, which is to show people and have them be interested. And I think it's very, very difficult to have people be interested in the current Pulse Chain chart. And that's no shame that Richard or anything. It's a very difficult chart to show and have people become interested in. People want to know that the product is working good before they buy it, right? They don't want to go to a dealership and buy a car where someone is saying like, hey, this car is currently on sale. It's $30,000 instead of $60,000, but it's not working good right now, right? Like, well, dude, like I came here to buy a good car. Like, I don't care that it's on sale. But so that's kind of my approach to it, right? Like, I think Richard is the best marketer of his own chain. I hope he does come out and start marketing it with us. It would help us give us guidance, and he could really highlight the things that are going to help it excel, and we can really get an idea of maybe some of the things that are going to be innovative in the future with what we have. I think what we have right now is great, but for me, I think there is tricks up Richard's sleeve, and once those tricks are revealed, it'll probably make it a lot more easier to promote these products. But yeah, in the meantime, I find it very easy, and I feel very safe onboarding people to pTGC and UFO for multiple reasons. One, I personally feel like the sell pressure, even though it's up a bunch of X's, is way less than what's currently built into their Pulse Chain system. I think the pTGC system at a 5X, a lot of the community, it doesn't change their view on how long they're holding and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But a 5X on Pulse Chain assets, I think there's a massive wall of people ready to get out that have to get bought now. I feel this way about pTGC because I have seen it actually happen, right? It did seem like when we higher than we are right now, there was sell pressure, right? And that happened. But for the most part, from what I felt, people are very happy with holding their position a lot further. That helps me feel very confident in onboarding people to pTGC and UFO and marketing these products as well on this chain.
And he asked, like his last part of his second question, do you think it's a delayed tactic till SEC Interpol FUD is over? I do think that Richard Hart is just being chill on marketing because of the SEC stuff, which will be over, except for one over. It'll be over by July 7th. It's actually July 5th, but it's a weekend, so it's going to end up being July 7th. And then there's like one very highly remote chance that it's brought up again within the 30 days after that. But he did allude that, he made two allusions to an early July, SEC. He didn't use that term, but something being over and him doing, picking up where he left off, perhaps in like 30 days, which is like early July. So I think that he is waiting to do any marketing until early July. Will he stream? I hope so. What he has planned, I don't know. He's just he's injecting positivity and giving little hints that he's up to something.
Yeah, I personally think the whole morale of pulse chain could change in a matter of 1 week.
Absolutely.
I think Richard could come out. I think some value could flow into pulse chain. I think a few tricks or a few innovations of pulse chain could come out in a very short amount of time, and all negativity would be forgotten about, and we would just start moving up. And I think Richard understands this, and I think there is only so much ammo anyone has, marketing power that anyone has, and it's important to use it at the best strategic point, right? And the best time to use that is when money is flowing into risk on assets. If money's flowing out of risk on assets, that's literally like having so much ammo and just firing it, and there being not even a person there to defend yourself against, right? Or, and you're shooting ammo, but there's nothing even there you're shooting at, so you just wasted it all. Because when money's leaving the market, they're not coming into your product, they're leaving risk on assets. So it's important to save that ammo for when value is coming in and they're looking for the assets to get into. I think Richard understands this better than me, better than 99.9% of people. So I think it's a strategic waiting period for the right time. And then when this right time comes, I think he's going to start dropping, stream, price movement, tricks up the sleeve, innovations, possibly new products built on top of pulse chain. I think it'll come in like a storm and possibly really take over the crypto industry as far as mind share. Because crypto is pretty much just a mind share environment. If you can get the mind share of users and constantly be in front of their face and get them over to your charts and your charts are green, you pretty much can take over. And I think he has the tools at his disposal to do that, but he will use the minimal amount of funds and at the best period for the most price appreciation. So I personally think it's a strategic plan.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff says, well, we'll get to Jeff's question, but Conspiracy Crypto says that he says, I think whatever RH does will have the Jeets FOMOing back in. It will be epic. I agree. I think a lot of people are going to come back in, and I think that people are waiting on the sidelines to make their entry because they're just waiting to see what is going to happen. And yeah, that's my opinion. Then Jeff asks a question, and then perhaps after this question we can get back to the RH tweet. But he said he says if an average of RH, it's basically a question Zen about the X multiplier. He needs it explained. So if an average of RH coins does 100x, pTGC does 10x, how does that make 1,000x with that X multiplier?
Yeah, so what we receive as free X's pretty much is a mean. So a mean, I mean an average of everything we're connected to based on their sizes. So what we are heavily connected to as far as pTGC and UFO is Pulse, Pulse X, Inc, Hex, and all these liquidity pools are different sizes, and they're also changing at all points because as an asset that we're connected to moves up, it can become a bigger LP pool. For an example, if Pulse X starts moving up and Pulse doesn't, well, that LP pool could easily start becoming bigger than the Pulse LP pool. But let's just say that they're all relatively the same for this example, and they move up the same amount of X's. Well, what we get as our X multiplier is an average of everything we're connected to. So let's say on average, Richard's tickers do a 100x. Okay, well then us as a pTGC asset ratio, while we're bonded to all these assets, we automatically get that 100x. A lot of people don't really realize it. They don't, because there's constantly human interaction or market interaction, which never really get an even amount of X's from the things you're connected to, buyers or sellers, but it is as basic as that. So imagine if you just had one LP pool, TLS, and let's say pTGC and PLS were 1-to-1. At one point they were. And PLS goes from 1 penny to $1, right? That's a 100x. Well, if PLS went from 1 penny to $1 and 1 PLS is equal to 1 pTGC, well, now pTGC went from 1 penny to $1 because they're just a big ratio. You actually didn't even need any buys on the chart to change that ratio. It's very similar to like if you compared it to just objects and they were all ratio based. Let's say you could trade an apple for an orange at one vendor and you're an orange salesperson. You have this guy who's always willing to trade the one orange for the one apple. But then in your booth, you upped your prices on the orange from 1 penny to $1, right? Now you're making people trade a whole dollar for your oranges. Well, if that vendor is still willing to trade one orange for one apple, well, technically now that apple's worth $1 because you just changed the rate to the fiat, but the ratio between those two objects never changed. They're still 1-to-1. What the X multiplier is that we do against Pulse Chain is a multiplier to whatever the blockchain does. And this is something a lot of people never realize, and I think I was one of the first people to really talk about it. I think they all thought that it was more of an addition thing or didn't even know this existed. But so since August 26th, we're pretty much up 10x against Pulse Chain. So let's just say in this example, we do another 10x, which is actually very, very easy considering the fact that we can, if Pulse Chain does 100x, we can automatically do that 100x. That's with no one buying pTGC. No one buying. That's literally the market doing nothing. You have to ask yourself, if 100x amount of value flows into Pulse Chain as a network, a net positive, how much value do you make its way to pTGC? In the past, a very large amount of it made its way to pTGC, and that's why when Pulse Chain did a 3x, we did a 45x, right? So in markets, naturally, if you study how blockchains work, is when money starts flowing into a blockchain, they end up in the main ticker, but a very large portion of that value actually flows down to alt tokens. And if we can do a 10x over the blockchain, right now, I think it would only cost us like $6 million or something like that. That would 10x. So that would make it to where pTGC holders would receive 1,000x when PLS holders only received 100x. And this is no guarantee. You have to realize it. It's just mechanically we have this broken down to where people can understand it. And then we actually have data. As far as the previous 2 times that Pulse Chain has went up, we've easily accomplished this 10x against the blockchain.
I hope that answers your question sufficiently, Jeff. It doesn't hurt to go over that every now and again, you know, Zen, that X multiplier, because people forget. I was even having to walk myself through it. Like last week, I was like, now how does that work? Oh, okay. I was able to figure it out. It's kind of a tricky one.
I kind of look at it as 2 separate units, right? You have take away the fact of dollar value, right? And just look at the ratio of your asset versus PLS. And just kind of think, okay, well, how many X's do I think I could do if Pulse Chain did nothing? Let's say we think, okay, we think we could do a 10x, right? Like $6 million injected. And if you want, we can even go on to look into pTGC, you know, how many X's we get off of like $10 million injected into pTGC or whatever. But that's a separate part of the equation. That's our X multiplier. If we do a 10x, right, like in the meantime, and then Pulse Chain randomly comes in and does 100x, well, we just received 1,000x. The interesting thing about it that a lot of people just don't understand how these markets function is if Pulse Chain starts going up, what that means is money is flowing into Pulse Chain. Net positive value is flowing into Pulse Chain, which gives us a very much higher chance that we will do X's over Pulse Chain, because that means the general market has a net positive flow of value. When prices of Pulse Chain are going down, we actually have a greater chance of going down harder than Pulse Chain, because we're not only getting a decrease in value from Pulse Chain, but also value is leaving the chain. And when value leaves the blockchain, you have to realize that that value isn't just leaving Pulse. It's also going to leave other assets that are on the chain as well, because value is leaving risk on assets. And that's usually why you see on all tokens on a blockchain, amplified moves down and amplified moves up. It's just how everything works on chain. Is when value leaves the markets, value obviously leaves the gas token, but it also leaves some of the alts that are on the chain as well. But when value flows into the blockchain, it obviously flows into the gas token, but then a portion of that trickles down to the good, sustainable alts that are built on this chain. Richard is obviously going to capitalize on this. When value flows into Pulse, a portion of that value is going to make its way to Hex. A portion of that's going to make its way to Pulse X, right? He's also operating off of the X multiplier, just like us. What's very unique for us, and actually unique for him as well, because his assets are connected to pTGC, just like we're connected to his assets, is we're actually all operating off of this multiplier now, because if his assets do a 2x over Pulse Chain, well, we get the average of all that. That's what's crazy. So let's say Pulse Chain only does 50x, but Hex and Pulse X do a 100x. Well, we might end up with a 75x multiplier, because we're getting the average of everything. So it helps us do an X multiplier over Pulse Chain without any bias on our system, if also rich have sustainability as well. It's the thing I always kind of go back to, is these projects coming out saying, you know, hey, we're going to do a bunch of X's. We're shooting for 100x. We're shooting for 1000x. But the people that are saying these things don't even understand how to accomplish it mechanically. They don't understand how the market even works and why their price is going up or why their price is going down. This is where pTGC, I think, really stands out. Is we don't only understand it, but we are actually mechanically increasing the chances of doing it. Most don't even do either.
Okay, let's get back to the tweet, Richard Hart's tweet from I think it was just yesterday. So he's basically talking about taking responsibility for marketing. I think he talked about marketing in here and how people are exiting, and he talks about the supply and demand. And the last thing he says, when you take responsibility for your actions, you give yourself the gift of being able to make changes that can improve your life. Well, and then he goes on. He says, well, anyway, nearly everything in crypto is wrecked price-wise. He's talking about right now. If you're reading this, you're probably wrecked price-wise as well. Ethereum is $2,400 right now. It was $5,000 years and years ago. Do you hear me crying at Vitalik? Please, Vitalik, please make bag go up. No, because I have basic human dignity, and that doesn't work. And being manly is cool.
Yeah, I think the Greys very, very much take accountability for their own bags, right? I think that's why we're on this spaces right now.
Yeah.
I obviously want Richard to help Pulse Chain out, right? I think it'd be great for the chain, but we are doing whatever we can in the meantime to have control of our finances, to change our lives with or without. right? And that's very, very important, in my opinion, is to understand that your finances is your finances. You can't blame anyone but yourself, and you can't blame someone if they're not enriching you, right? It's on you to do it. This is one of the reasons why I went to business for myself at a very young age, is then my future was in my control, right? Instead of, if I was working for someone else, my future would be in someone else's control. It would be on them to give me raises. It'd be on them to get work at the door. It would be on them to grow the business. So many aspects would be in someone else's hands. I do think it's important at times to understand for life, and you're in control of it. And it's cool that we have products on this chain like pTGC and UFO to where we can also support Richard and show him support, and we believe in him long term, but also put our future in our control.
Yeah, we got to take responsibility for our own. For number go up. I mean, it's the classic,
Yeah,
point your finger at
and
somebody else and
still work hard, and price can go down, right? Like he said, all that matters is buyers and sellers. So we can work our butt off, we can educate, we can believe in the product. The product can be absolutely amazing. But if you have more sellers than buyers at a certain time period, your price will still go down. But those people can only sell those tokens once. Once they're out, if you have a good demand, well, once that is gone, the tickers, then you can start moving up now, right? And I do think price decreases are good for that, because as price goes down, you're letting these people out at lower levels, and you're also letting new people in at low levels too. Give them a great entry. So there is positivity to this. I do think there's positivity to pTGC being at a nice discount right now. Majority of that discount not being from pTGC itself, but just being the assets it's connected to. But then also discounts on Richard's tickers, right? We're letting people out that don't see the longevity of the system, and we're letting some new people in who are getting an amazing price on pTGC and UFO, really.
yes. Do you know when our first Twitter space was?
Was it a year ago or something? Or
It was July 6th. Yeah, it was basically, well, almost a year ago. July 6th. I've been thinking about that. I just looked it up while you were chatting. I looked it up, and it has 136 views, 25 likes. And let's see. And it was on a Saturday, July 6th. Saturday, July 6th was our first, stream. And then, but let's make a comparison. Then we'll get back to Richard's tweet again. But let's see. A Saturday would have been the 16th. We've had, so last Saturday stream had 248 views so far. Just as a comparison. So we're getting more views on our Twitter spaces, and we're having one additional one a week, and we're having 2 presentations and a couple voice chats also every single week. I love the energy in this space, man. It's like we're not going down without fight, man. We're not going down either, but I just love it. What other community has is so engaged? I mean, is everybody else on Pulse Chain just waiting for number go up? I know there are people out there, working hard, and I love it, man. I love the tenacity, and the ingenuity. People just doing what they can. All right, the second to last paragraph's in. He says, anyway, nearly everything in, we already read that. Okay, last paragraph. The TLDR. Everyone's wrecked. As we've all been, let me put this on my screen. As we've all been many times before, if you've been in crypto for a while. So many of us have not been in crypto for a while. Well, just be quiet and keep working. Yeah, actually working. You've got lots of potential to make amazing things happen. But crying like a bitch doesn't get the work done. Working does. Get to work. The tech is far better than it has ever been. You there, Zen? You're formulating your answer.
Yeah, I think we kind of went through it. That's what we're trying to do right now. We've been working. We have products that we worked really hard to build. Like, it's pretty much 2 years spent building this system before it even launched. It's been out 2 years now, so 4 years into this product. And we're grinding every single day to educate people on this very unique product that exists on this amazing blockchain. When markets pick back up, I think all that hard work is going to be really quickly shown. But obviously, that's not a guarantee. Crypto has the greatest rewards, but it's also the riskiest place to be. So, don't overextend yourself or anything like that. But by studying the past of pTGC, I do believe in this next move of Pulse Chain, which I do think is to come. I don't think we're in a legitimate bear market right now. If we are in a legitimate bear market, well, usually a bear market only goes down for a year, and then it sits flat for a year, and then it kind of chugs up for 2 years. So if we are, well, we're pretty much halfway through it now.
Yeah.
And if we are, I do believe we aren't. I think we're running into what should be a very, very nice move up. And if pTGC just does remotely what it's done in the past, if Pulse Chain is only remotely successful, from the numbers that I have ran, pTGC starts to really grow into an amazing asset that is pretty much in a category of itself. I don't know of anything else that operates really like this. It's automated, but still generates revenue like a company with no overhead. So we'll see where it goes. With just 10x increase of volume on a daily basis, the value generation is larger than most full-blown companies with tons of overhead. With 50x to volume, it technically starts generating over $100 million a year of value, which over a long term, and by studying supply and demand, if you have $100 million of value injected net positively into a system, and that doesn't include buyers, I don't know of something that you could actually compare to it long term. I'm very interested to see what we're actually endeavoring on in this system. And this is since the beginning of it, right? With the launch of pTGC and UFO, I said, the calculations I'm running, the system is designed to continue to chug up and to the right. And that's what I think it's going to do. But we don't know because this has never been done before. So even where we are right now on pTGC technically has never been done before. And as the market starts to come to us, as Pulse Chain becomes more successful, we can make these educated guesses of what we can see in the future and what we believe we'll see in the future. But we won't really even know until we're in it, right? Because this is a brand new idea that's never been seen before. And I'm beyond excited to see it start to really turn on, because we do know how this machine operates at these levels of Pulse Chain. Like, we're seeing it right now. We know what it does at these levels. We've gotten small glimpses of what it does when volume increases and price increases on blockchain and on pTGC. We were hitting $2 million days in volume some of those days, with Pulse Chain still undersaturated. I'm beyond excited to see what this machine could do and what it does long term with a remotely successful Pulse Chain.
Yeah.
Successful. I mean, like, let's say inflow net positive of value a lot of people don't realize this, but in the grand scheme, we've had a net negative flow of value out of Pulse Chain since its launch. So value has been leaving the chain. People have been leaving the chain more than coming into the chain for the last 2 years. So a net positive amount of users. I think that sounds like the greatest blessing in the world right now, since we've been in an environment that's had a net negative amount of losers. So a net positive of volume that's increasing and a price that's increasing, or just staying at a level that's above, let's say, 10x from. And 10x from here is actually still below all-time highs of Pulse Chain. So for the pTGC system, for me to really hit its next level of like, hey, let's see how it operates. That's not even all-time highs of Pulse Chain, but I do think that next level is really going to start to open up the eyes of more general people of what this pTGC system is. I think right now it's still mechanically operating at lower levels that me, Banana, and the people listening can see, because we're studying it so in depth. But to get the attention of more general people, it needs to be amplified a little bit, to where the value generation is at that $100 million a day. But that's only, technically, or not a day, $100 million a year. But that's only like 20x in volume from here. Like, what happens if Pulse Chain isn't moderately successful? What if Richard actually wants glory?
He does. I think he does. He's said that many times. He wants to win.
He does.
He's a winner, man. He doesn't take no for an answer. He's one of those guys that's like, we're gonna do it my way. I win.
I think he has pride in his products, right? That's one thing that always stood out to me about how he felt about Hex, is he had so much pride in the product of Hex. And the glory, I think he talks about that a lot, but like even the Richard that I really started following had so much conviction and pride in his product, and you could feel it when he talked about it. He genuinely believed his product was better than the other stores of value that existed. And I think him coming and reassuring and reminding the users that he does believe in these products because they are dang good. The fact that there is so much supply control on the major assets on this chain is so much of an edge against every other blockchain. It's insane. Supply control over the gas token, supply control of the DEX token, supply control of the Bitcoin of the chain now with the inflation cuts of Hex, supply control of INC, 20x cuts of inflation on INC. Some of the top blue chips have some of the best supply control that have ever been seen in crypto, in my opinion, pTGC and UFO. And then there's also other assets that are blue chips on chain as well. I do believe will do decently well as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a situation ever in crypto set up like this. Also extremely risky. No adoption could come to Pulse Chain ever. And, we could all be playing with internet money with a bridge that does not have nearly enough for the people here. But I do believe something good is coming, and it's possibly a revolution.
Possibly. Yep. And we're all here for speculation, right? And that really excites me, the possibility of where things could go. And if it's, I like to look at things that like, I like to split things in half sometimes. Like, well, so-and-so says Pulse Chain could do 1,000x. Well, if it does half that or 10%, like break it down. Well, if it only does 10%, that's 100x. Okay. I think we'd all be very happy. Okay. Now let's go to the extreme. Can Richard Hart pull off a revolution? Wow. That would be the ultimate, right? Well, what if he can only do 10% of that? Well, is 10% of that 100x on Pulse Chain? There's no way to tell. But in my mind, I'll go with that. or somewhere in between, somewhere between 100x and a revolution. Yeah, I like that. Do we have one more paragraph? No, I think we need to go over to, we're done with the tweet, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, that was it. Let's go over to the lookintoptgc.com dashboard and review some stats. So we burned 41.584 billion pTGC. So we burned almost 12.5%. I wonder when we're going to hit 12.5. I wonder when that'll be. But we burned 10,000 pTGC just in the last 15 minutes, 1 million in the last hour. Yeah, I'm literally shocked. Okay, I'm not playing around. We literally, is this real? We burned 1 million tokens in the last hour, Zan. $291 because it's 1 million pTGC right now is $250. Every single pTGC sent to the dead address, and that's where these tokens went, will never earn another reflection or staking reward. And everybody just got inflated in their position. By holding your principal and all these tokens going to the burn address, that means you it's like a gift to everybody when tokens are burned. That just stuns me, man. I think I love the sheer fact that those tokens will never earn reflections, and that as long as we hodl, as long as we can, every day after day that we hodl, we continue to move up, and we earn reflections and move up within the whole total circulating supply. The volume was $29,000 in the last 24 hours. Circulating supply is 291.7 billion tokens. We're 40x from a penny, 400x from a dime. We got some ground to cover, guys, but we can do it. In the last 24 hours, $1,453 of fees have been collected, and that's from the 5% community fee for every buy, sell, and transfer. And where did those fees go? They went to the DAO, added to liquidity. They burned pTGC and paid holders and stakers. Then UFO has burned 82 billion tokens, so 8% of its total supply. It hasn't burned anything in the last 15 minutes, but in the last hour, it burned 18.7 million UFO, or $288. So an equivalent amount, Zen, an equivalent amount in dollars, but about 18 times more tokens UFO burn. And that's because the price is so much lower than pTGC. And then, yeah, the price is 1542. It's on sale, guys. Both of these tokens are on sale. And by the way, I was just looking at my position, buying a position tab on my sheet. You can buy 5 times more UFO right now. You can buy 5 times more tokens per dollar than you can of pTGC. And if that matters to you, then that's good. That's a valuable nugget. $24,000 in volume, so about the same, a little bit less than pTGC. 918 billion tokens in circulation, 648x away from a penny. $1,500 in fees collected in the last 24 hours, and they went to pay LP providers. $700 went to LP providers. $240 went to buy and burn, and then it paid holders and bought and burned pTGC. So that's our snapshot for the day. Yeah. Barely couldn't see. Paul says.
Yeah, I think it's all pretty low right now. Obviously volume on the whole entire chain is at all-time lows. I think human interaction right now is at all-time lows. I think people are kind of turning it off a little bit. But, it kind of just goes back to it's just running great, right? The machine can do what the machine does every single day, and it's going to just keep doing what it's doing every single day.
Paul raised a good point. He said at 1 cent, that's $10,000 burned in the past hour. You know, that 10,000 pTGC that was burned in the last 15 minutes at 1 cent. How much is that? How much is 10,000 pTGC at 1 cent? Yeah, I think he was referring to the 1 million pTGC in the last hour. Yep. That'd be $10,000 burned in the past hour. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I do believe that when pulse chain starts to move up, when price change, we will miss these levels of, you know, the reflections of quantity of tokens. Obviously, volume is extremely low right now, but on higher volume days at lower prices, the rewards in quantity of tokens, the buy and burns in quantity of tokens are definitely great. So on those days, we definitely need to stay positive about it and be like, you know what, these decent volume days, today is not one of those we're looking at right now. It's definitely going to be a slow weekend. But on the days that do have decent volume and we're at these low levels, such a blessing. We're getting rid of such these amounts of pTGC to the dead address, UFO to the dead address. I think we don't know what that's going to equal out long term, but I always look at it like I look at the pTGC and address like the God will of pTGC and UFO.
Yes.
Right? It's that fire who's buying day in, day out, DCAing every single day into the system, but never going to sell a token ever. You know, some days are low, $200 today. This is the God will, $200. But we've seen days where it's $50,000. You know, and that's at low levels. And in the future, that $50,000 technically could be worth $1 million, and it's never going to get sold onto the market ever. And whenever that day comes, let's say that day is a year from now, that God will, in quotes, of pTGC and UFO is still DCA. It's going to DCA every day for the lifespan of all of pulse chain. It's never going to stop. Every single day, it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't think we've begun to understand the immensity.
I don't know of a product like Bitcoin is the best product I know of to kind of compare it to, and it doesn't have supply reduction; it has supply control.
Yeah.
To where there is only so many of the tokens, and we've seen what that can do, right? A lot of people on educating on Bitcoin back in the day is just, you ask yourself, you don't need to believe in Bitcoin, but do you believe in math? There's only so many tokens that exist, and there's only so many people in the world, right? I like to lean on this same idea with pTGC and UFO. Like, do you believe in math? Because if you believe in math and you see the supply reduction that's happening, to multiply this stuff out, in any, you can multiply it out with what it is today. You can multiply it out on, you know, if you go on to look into ptgc.com, you can actually see what the average is for the last 6 months. 1 second. Unless you can pull it up and tell me.
What the average what is, like volume?
Daily volume for the last 12 months or 6 months.
Okay, for pTGC.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, there you go.
370K. So the average daily volume for pTGC for the last months, and this is obviously taking the data in for 6 months and coming up with the average, $370,000. So you can take $370,000 and let's say times that by 365. Well, you're at $131 million in volume just off of the metrics we are at in the last 6 months. You have to remind yourself, pulse chain has not even broken all or broken sack rate in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So this is with pulse chain not even above sack rate. Well, let's say you believe that in the future it could be 10x that, because you believe pulse chain will be like 10x or near, maybe 10x above sack or whatever. But you can actually take that number and say, okay, let's do times 10, because I believe pulse chain will be more successful than it's been. Well, then you're at $1,317,000,000 in volume. And then you can say, okay, and that's just in 1 year. Well, how much value generation is that? Well, that is $65 million a year in value generation. And you're like, okay, well, I do believe in pTGC. Well, I don't really care about what it does in the next year. I do have a portion of my bag that I will probably change my life short term, but I also have a very large portion of my bag long term. And I don't know if we're going to have time today, but I do want to at least sometime soon really start talking about the locking of pTGC, because I do think the locking system built into pTGC is a very awesome system, because the APY is claimable at any time. We understand these locking systems a lot better than we did when Hex came out. So people can make ladders in a very educated way now and kind of structure themselves to where hopefully a good portion of the people that are here today are the same people that are here 10 years from now. Locking helps with that, because I would love to see that. I would love to see the people that were here early in pTGC are the same people here that are here in 10 years. Because in Bitcoin, this is not the case.
Right.
The people who are advocating for Bitcoin now are not the people that were in Bitcoin the first year or 2 years. They're people that actually came in 6 years later, right? So I would like to see it being somewhat the same people with a portion of their portfolio. But where I'm getting at is, so $65 million a year, that's only a 10x in the daily volume than we have right now. Obviously, 5 years from now, this should just keep increasing, but let's say it doesn't increase. Let's just say it's just relative. So times 10, well, that's $658 million of value generation. Let's say 20% of that went to buying firms. Here's 650 million. So that would be $130 million of buying birds. And that's with. That's no addition of human buys, right? That's just us banking on the utility and a appreciation of what we're. Well, there's only 3% of the supply even left on the market, right? Like, obviously this $130 million could never buy all of that supply, because it would just keep appreciating the price and appreciating the price and appreciating the price. And that's where I'm saying is, like, sometimes it's worth to just create some scenarios. This is what I've done way too many times probably. And I've ran different scenarios of different outcomes of pulse chain, and you can see what the end result of pTGC could be, as long as there's not some crazy, black swan event to the system.
Right. I have a question.
For fun, Banana, if you're still on, look into pTGC.
I am.
Can you go to the Moon Map 2.0 and go to pTGC and type in $130 million and see what that X is to the price? A net positive of $130 million at these prices. Which,
it would 2,900 exit.
okay.
I mean, let me check and make sure I got that right.
Even if pulse chain was 10x higher,
no, I'm sorry.
You can't plug that in there, but
Hold up. I think I said that wrong. So you said $1.3 million?
no, $130 million.
Okay. Yeah, it would be. I'm getting my back. It was what I stated. 48.
Yeah. So obviously, if Pulse Chain's up 10x more, PTGC is probably up, which then liquidity is up, which makes it to where that value injected would do a little bit less of X's, probably 10x less, I think. But even at that point, you know, that's, what is it, 290x from these levels?
100.
Just bringing the
$130 million injected into PTDC right now would bring it to $1.21, 4,879x. We have 2 questions in the chat on YouTube, by the way.
Shoot.
Okay. Start with Mira's Law. He says, I have a question. What will be the price of PTDC if Pulse and Pulse X grow 3x at the same time? I don't know if that's answerable.
That would just be technically, if there's no X's we do over that, that would just be a 3x to us. So if Pulse goes up 3x and Pulse X goes up 3x, we automatically pretty much get a 3x.
Okay. And Crispy asks, does it make sense for other tokens to pair with PTDC or UFO? I would say yes.
I personally think PTGC, and this is probably super biased, I personally think PTGC is one of the best assets anyone can pair their token with. It's shown to have the strength. It's shown to have the mechanics to go up in price. You know, this is something that you want to bond your asset with tokens that you believe will go up in price. You want to bond your token with things that have sustainability. You want to bond your things with things that have liquidity, right? You don't want to bond your things with things that have lack of liquidity because it's technically a dead-end liquidity end. But I do think a lot of people don't realize how amazing of a product PTGC is alone. But if you're trying to give your product value as well, it does make sense to bond with it. You can actually look on chain, and a lot of products that actually haven't had a lot of individual growth, but have just bonded themselves to PTGC have had tons of success because PTGC will drag it up. You actually don't even need any buys on your asset as long as you're bonded to the right assets that do go up.
Okay.
I think over time, a lot of, you know, and this might happen when more general public comes in, right? This might happen when Pulse Chain's up 10x from here. But I do think PTGC is going to turn into a cornerstone of the Pulse Chain ecosystem where a lot of people do bond with it because of its sustainability, because of its mechanics, because of the liquidity backing it, and because of the community that's backing it as well. It is a very, very good thing to add LP with if you're looking for growth from an asset that you're connected to. For an example, if someone bonded to 2 assets a year ago, half of their value in Pulse, half of their value in PTGC, well, they would have gotten an X multiplier from PTGC, I think a year ago, we're probably up like 20X or something like that. And then from Pulse, they're down, right? So PTGC gave them a 20X, Pulse gave them nothing. So the best decision they've made for their protocol was bonding with PTGC.
True.
And I don't know what the future holds for liquidity on chain for Richard's tickers. I don't know if price keeps going up, if there's going to be an event where liquidity keeps getting drained, make it easier to pump and pump and pump. But due to us not needing necessarily to worry about that solely because we know how we're going to get our X's, we're not playing liquidity games. We generate revenue off of liquidity games. So by bonding with us, you are tapping into a system that you can actually feel pretty confident that the liquidity isn't going to disappear on you as price ratchets up.
Is there anybody that would like to come up and speak? We've had questions on YouTube, and I've been talking, you've been talking, but does anybody? I mean, we're at 2 hours, just over 2 hours, and I imagine you got to scoot. I should be scooting.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do a last call. If anyone's got a question, throw it on YouTube. If anyone wants to come in real quick and help us with the closing statement at all, feel free to come in, raise your hand, ask your question, or just give some positive feedback or additions.
It's pretty quiet.
It's quiet in crypto right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good to shut it down, to be honest with you. I think that was a good ending spot.
Let's do it, man. It was a good spaces.
Yeah, real quick on what Christy was saying too, I did want to point out one thing that benefits pTGC when other communities do bond with it, especially if it's a community that has a system that's a zero fee on transaction. When people bond with the pTGC asset, for one, they need to buy the pTGC asset and take that value or put that value into the pTGC system. You know, unless they already own it, well, then they're putting that value to work. But when they bond their asset with it, whatever that individual token does as far as its own individual market benefits the pTGC system in a way that's very unique to the pTGC system, right? As that market moves up and down, if it creates volume, we obviously generate revenue off of that asset that we're bonded to. So it becomes a somewhat symbiotic relationship. We're benefiting them because we're using our help drag them up. So they actually have mechanics within our system that are helping their non-mechanically driven asset. So for an example, if you create a pump tires token and it's bonded with Pulse upon launch, but then some of it and they bond it with pTGC. Well, now the deflationary tokenomics, the price appreciation, the strong community is actually helping your asset that has none of those mechanics to it. But then where we're benefiting off of that bonding as well is that asset might have its own individual market and its own individual community. And as that market moves up and down, we're generating revenue off of it and adding to our system, you know, by paying out APY, by becoming more deflationary, by funding our DAO. So it is somewhat of a symbiotic relationship that's going on there. And I do think over time, more people will utilize it.
Interesting.
You can already see people starting to utilize it. People are burning liquidity with pTGC as we speak.
I love it.
Cool, guys.
Yeah. Let's go have a Saturday.
Yep. See you guys.
All right. See you, Zen. Leaving the spaces. Well, that was fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for jumping in. I think I've grown. I think that the channel has grown by about 100 in the last month or so, probably 6 weeks. So that's cool. We want the channel to be a conduit for people coming over to Pulse Chain. So I hope we got to everybody's questions. I think we basically did. Yeah, guys. Have a good Saturday. See you around. I will not, and by the way, I will not be having a stream tomorrow afternoon, and I won't be on Spaces on Monday. Got some family coming in, so I'm going to go enjoy life. Not that this is not enjoyable. All right, guys. See you later.